It's the end of the year. You're staring at a blank January. And one question won't stop hitting you like a drum. Should I just quit? Your partner thinks so. Your bank account thinks so. Even part of you thinks so. The question always arrives at the worst time, likely after you have blown 3 trades in a row. When your partner glances at the screen and says nothing. When another trader casually mentions they're taking a break, and you wonder if that's code for something permanent. And the advice usually comes wrapped in concern. Maybe it's not for you. There's no shame in stopping. You could always come back later. But this is what makes it hurt. You are not just hearing it from them. Part of you is already asking the same thing. In his book, Trading in the Zone, Mark Douglas wrote about this using an example that is almost too simple, except it explains everything. A kid gets bitten by a dog. The bite heals in a week, but the fear doesn't. Now every dog, even the ones harmlessly wagging their tails, looks dangerous. The kid's brain has rewritten the rules. Dogs equal pain. It doesn't matter if the next dog is harmless. The memory is now running the show. Trading does this to you. One loss you didn't see coming. One trade that gutted you. And suddenly, the whole market feels like a setup. You are not reading the market or charts anymore. You are now reading that scar. Textbook entries now look suspicious. A winning position feels like a trap waiting to spring. You hesitate, not because the trade is bad, but because your nervous system remembers what happened last time. But should I quit is the wrong question. The real question is harder and less comfortable, and it is, why are you doing this at all? And if your answer is to make money, then honestly, quitting might make sense, because money comes and goes. The market doesn't care about your bills. And trying to extract income from a place of desperation is just expensive self-torture. But most people don't start trading for the money, even if they don't accept it. Most people start trading because something in them refuses to accept the ceiling. Because the idea of clocking in and out for 40 years feels like suffocation. Because they need to prove to themselves, not anyone else, that they are capable of something more. Going back to Mark Douglas, he puts it this way. Trading isn't about having capital. It is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with capital. In other words, trading is about unlearning the bite. It is about proving that one bad experience doesn't get to script the rest of your decisions. It is about building a mind that is stronger than the worst thing that's happened to it. The question, should I quit, comes from panic, from confusion. It comes from listening to people who don't understand what you are actually trying to do. So, let's change the question. This isn't about whether you should trade. It is about why you are trading, and whether that reason is strong enough to justify continuing. This video is not about giving you a pep talk or telling you to believe in yourself. This video will help you get clarity, to audit your actual motivation, and to separate what you want from what you are afraid of. And by the end of this video, you will know the answer, not because someone told you what to do, but because you will finally have clarity on what you are actually doing this for. If you are ready, let's begin your end of the year audit. What trading actually is. The uncomfortable truth. Let's start by killing one of the most persistent myths in trading, that being smart protects you. People assume that if you're analytical, logical, good with numbers, that you will have an edge, that intelligence is some kind of shield in this business. But it is not. There is a story that makes this brutally clear. A neuroscientist, someone who spent his entire career studying how humans make decisions, decided to try trading. This wasn't just any smart guy. This was someone who understood dopamine pathways, risk perception, and behavioral triggers. He knew literally down to the neuron why people do what they do. He thought he had an unfair advantage. He thought understanding the brain meant he could outsmart his own. Then he placed his first few trades, but every setup made him hesitate. Every entry triggered panic. Every loss felt personal, and every win made him careless. 6 months down the line, after burning through money on mistakes he knew were mistakes, he said something that cut right to it. "I understand how the brain works. But trading forced me to confront how my brain works. That is the part no one expects. You can know the science, you can understand the probabilities, you can even memorize every pattern, and you will still fall apart when it is your actual money at risk. Because trading isn't testing what you know, it is testing who you are. So, if it is not about intelligence, what is it? Trading is just repetitive decision-making with money attached. Most of the time, it's boring. You're waiting, watching, following a plan you have followed 100 times before. Then, without warning, something shifts. Fear kicks in, or greed, or urgency, or the panicked thought that you are about to lose everything if you don't do something right now. Trading doesn't build discipline. It reveals you don't have it. It doesn't teach you patience. It shows you where your patience ends. The lessons aren't deep. They are uncomfortable. When you are scared, you will ignore your own rules. When you are winning, you will want more than the plan allows. When you're losing, you will either freeze or do something desperate. Trading is a mirror, a very clean one. It shows you exactly who you are when no one is watching. When there is no boss, no deadline, no external pressure forcing you to stay in line. Just you, a chart, and the consequences of whatever you decide to do next. Most people realize something they didn't expect. They have been relying on external structure their whole lives. A manager telling them what to do. A schedule keeping them on track. A paycheck that shows up whether they feel like working or not. Take that away, and what is left is impulse, emotion, fear disguised as analysis, and hope disguised as strategy. That is what trading actually is. Not a test of how much you know, not a competition to see who is smarter. It is a direct, unfiltered confrontation with your own decision-making under pressure. And until you understand that, and I mean really understand it, nothing else about this business will make sense. Why suffering through trading matters and how it changes you. So why should you suffer through trading? Like, what is the actual point of all this pain? And what does it really do? Let me tell you a story that answers both questions. Some military groups have a desert survival test. They drop you in scorching heat with a compass, a canteen, and a map. But the thing is, on day one, they don't actually care if you navigate correctly. What they are watching for is your reaction when things start falling apart. Because in the desert, you don't learn anything from getting it right. You learn from things like dehydration, disorientation, from your legs giving out, and from the moment your brain starts screaming at you to quit. Suffering shows who you actually are and who you might become if you don't break. Trading works the same way. It is not punishing you. It is exposing you, and that exposure hurts because it is accurate. Every losing streak is your desert. Every emotional trade is your moment of dehydration. And every urge to abandon your plan is your brain screaming, quit. The question isn't whether you will face this suffering. You will. The question is, what does enduring it make possible? There is a famous experiment called the marshmallow test. Preschool-aged children were brought into a room, seated at a table, and a treat, often a marshmallow, but sometimes a cookie or pretzel, was placed in front of them. The researchers offered the child a choice. Eat the single treat immediately or wait for them to return in about 15 minutes and receive a second treat as a reward for waiting. Researchers observed the children's various strategies to resist temptation, such as covering their eyes, singing, talking to themselves, or fidgeting to distract themselves from the treat. Follow-up studies conducted years later suggested that children who were able to wait longer for the second marshmallow tended to have better life outcomes, including higher SAT scores, better academic performance, and lower body mass indexes as adults. This led to the conclusion that the ability to delay gratification was a critical skill for success. Trading does the same thing to you, except the marshmallow is your account balance, and the temptation shows up 50 times a day. But if you are still wondering why you need to suffer through trading and what trading suffering actually teaches, here are some. There is the financial transformation. It teaches you that wealth doesn't come from brilliance. It comes from refusing to self-destruct. It teaches that small edges compound when you let them, and catastrophic mistakes erase months of work, and that the goal isn't predicting the market perfectly, it is in executing without blowing yourself up. For personal transformation, trading teaches you that. You learn that panic is the most expensive thing you can buy, so you stop buying it. You develop tolerance for uncertainty, not out of heroism, but because the alternative costs more. And you build the ability to delay gratification when every instinct screams, do something now. But the most critical insight most traders miss is, personal growth comes first, and financial growth is the lagging indicator. You don't become profitable and then develop discipline later. You first have to develop discipline, and then, sometimes months later, profitability follows as proof that the transformation was real. This isn't discipline in the motivational poster sense. This is emotional rewiring. The process says you make the same mistake repeatedly, chasing losses, cutting winners early, trading out of boredom. Each time, it costs you, not just money, but something worse, the growing realization that you are the problem. Then something shifts, not because you suddenly got disciplined, but because you reached a breaking point where your brain finally said, I can't keep doing this. And the suffering forces you to build systems around your weaknesses, the way those kids built strategies around their temptation. Social media glorifies lottery moments, the massive wins, the screenshots, the one trade that supposedly changed everything. But your real turning point arrives when trading becomes boring, not because markets are boring, but because you are no longer emotionally combustible. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing to feel clever. You stop needing external validation. Those kids who waited for 2 marshmallows, they didn't just get extra candy. They proved to themselves they could delay gratification. And that proof became identity. That identity shaped decades of decisions. This is the mental model for trading. You are not just learning to manage money. You are proving to yourself that you can make rational decisions when emotions are screaming. That you can follow a plan when every instinct wants to deviate. That you can tolerate discomfort without needing immediate relief. And that proof becomes your identity. And that identity, it doesn't just change your trading account. It changes how you handle conflict, stress, uncertainty, and temptation in every area of your life. That is what changes, not the system, not the charts. It is you. The desert doesn't make you stronger because it is pleasant. It makes you stronger because surviving it proves you are capable of things you didn't know you could endure. Trading is your desert. Talking about changes. If you have ever felt like you're missing out on trading opportunities because you just don't have the time to watch the markets all day, or maybe you're new to this and still figuring things out, that's exactly why Ultima Markets, our brokerage partner, created Social. Think of it as social media, but for traders. You get to see what experienced traders are doing in real time. Follow the ones whose style you like, and if you want, you can copy their trades automatically. Literally one click, and their strategy becomes yours. And it gets more interesting. You can scroll through different traders, check out their track records, see how they've actually performed, and choose who to follow based on real results, not just promises. This takes the guesswork out of it. And if you're already trading, you can share your own strategies and actually earn commissions when others follow you. It's a two-way street. The best part is you're not doing this alone. There's a whole community sharing insights, asking questions, and learning together. Social is pretty much the opposite of staring at charts by yourself at 2 a.m., wondering if you're making the right call. If you are ready to give it a shot, click the link in the description and pin comment below. Why quitting is statistically dumb. Trading isn't some modern hustle invented on the internet. It is not a side gig born from TikTok or Reddit trends. Trading is older than every job title you have ever heard of. I was once told the story of a traveler walking the earth with one question in mind. What do all successful civilizations have in common? He steps into the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, watching merchants negotiate gold, spices, and fabrics. He crosses into Marrakesh, seeing traders bargain over saffron and ceramics. Then he lands in the middle of Wall Street, surrounded by screens, algorithms, and options chains. 3 different worlds, 3 different eras, but one identical behavior: move value, manage risk, and profit from exchange. Trading is the oldest human skill we have. It built kingdoms, it built empires, and it built modern economies. So, when you feel lost or unsure, understand this. You didn't choose a trend. You chose the one profession that has lasted 5,000 years and will outlive everything else. You choose a business that has a massive payoff attached to it. See, roles get automated, industries disappear, companies downsize, age becomes a liability, promotions depend on politics, not competence. But the markets don't care who you are. They don't care what you look like, how old you are, or where you were educated, or if you are not. The market only asks one question: can you operate effectively under uncertainty? That is the beauty of this business. It rewards function, not appearance. It rewards execution, not reputation. It rewards accountability, not connections. Yes, the barrier to entry is tiny. Anyone can deposit $100 and call themselves a trader. But the barrier to staying is brutally high. And that is not a disadvantage. If anything, it is your hidden edge. Because if the path is hard, most people quit, which simply means your competition removes itself. You are already ahead simply because you haven't walked away. So why are you quitting now? Quitting after paying all of that? Mathematically, it is one of the worst decisions you can make. It's like spending years in medical school and dropping out right before graduation. You paid for the education and refused to collect the returns. It is financially irrational, emotionally understandable, but still irrational. Survival is an edge. Longevity is an edge. And if you can last long enough to stop repeating the same emotional mistake twice, you're already outperforming the majority of traders who collapsed under pressure. This is your final message for the year, and I want it to land in a way that stays with you long after the screen goes dark. Trading, whether you realize it or not, is a form of time travel. Every click, every hesitation, every moment of panic or discipline is a signal sent directly to your future self. You are already shaping the person you will become through your reactions, not just your results. So, as the year ends and you look back at the wins, the losses, the missed trades, the moments you doubted yourself, ask the only question that matters. What message are you sending to the version of you 5 years from now? Is it the message of someone who is willing to grow? Someone who stays in the process long enough to transform? Or is it the message of someone who abandons his own potential because the work felt heavier than the reward? Whatever it is, your future self is listening, and he will live with whatever you choose today. So, think about it carefully, not with fear, not with pressure, but with honesty. You have another year ahead, another chance to evolve your mind, your discipline, and your resilience. It is another chance to build a trajectory you will be proud to look back on. From the Profit Academy, we wish you an amazing new year. See you in 2026, hopefully stronger, clearer, and ready to trade with intention. Now go rest and reset.